Hello, and welcome to Tea and Tournaments. My name is Lisette Lebergere. I've been part of the SCA for over 20 years and an MOL for almost as long. This series of videos is designed to help people, specifically MOLs and marshals, to design and run different styles of tournaments at their practices and at their events. If you have any questions, my contact information will be at the end of the video, and I welcome to hear from all of you. The topic for this first video is communication between the MOLs, the marshals, and the rest of the field staff. So grab something to drink and make yourself comfy. Everybody says that communication happens, but do we really pay attention to everything that's going on? And if there's a change, do we really communicate that to whoever's filling in those shoes? Within the SCA, event staff can change dramatically from whenever an event is first planned to whenever the troll gate opens and everyone starts coming in. And the same thing with practices too. Real life happens, some things come up, some people attend that you weren't expecting, and others can't because of a real life occurrence. So communication, of course, is going to be key to any successful event or practice. One of the first things for an MOL, of course, is to make sure that you have enough MOLs for the event that's planned. And that's a discussion with your marshals and your event staff. How big of an attendance are they planning? Do they have enough list field space? How many fighters? Are they all on the fencing field? Are they on the rattan field? Are you doing both? So you need to make sure that you're having enough MOLs present to be able to handle any sort of tournament that might happen at the event. Now, even when you get to the event, sometimes the marshal springs a surprising twist on the activity. One, marshals, it's not exactly fair. Two, MOLs may not have enough experience to run a specific tournament, or they may not be prepared with enough index cards or the right kind of tourney brackets. So while surprise twists on an activity or a surprise tourney can be fun and exciting, you need to make sure that your MOLs and your marshals are on the same page before the event so that everybody can be prepared at the event. Sometimes royalty will declare that they want a super specific scenario when they arrive on site. Sometimes we have to be ready for everything, but communication is key. That has to happen both in the planning stages and the lead up to the event or practice, and afterwards whenever we are kind of tying up all of the loose ends and making sure that we can successfully do this again or improve for the next time. And as I alluded to earlier, real life always happens. And the last 2 to 3 years have given us a great example of that. Event staff changes can happen unexpectedly. So we have to be prepared for all of those as well. So for any practice or event, there's going to be 4 major time events that need to be considered as far as communication. Planning the event, after the event is on the calendar, during the event, and then after the event as well. Let's look at each one of these. So whenever we start planning an event, we're looking at, what kind of field staff you're going to need, what kind of event it's going to be, what the tourney is, whether there's a theme. Any of these questions could come up, and they need to be addressed both between the marshalate and the MOL and the event staff. So you need to know who the MOL and the marshal are going to be, and that includes any designate marshals for separate disciplines, whether there's youth, whether there's fencing, rattan, equestrian, archery, any of those. Archery doesn't necessarily need an MOL, but combat archery does. So you need to know who all of your marshalates are. Is this event or practice going to have a theme? And how are the martial activities going to support that theme? So those are some initial thoughts to consider whenever you're first planning some sort of themed practice or event. Okay. On the calendar, once you've started publishing that this event is going to take place, then you start looking at numbers about how many people you're going to have. And so you can start looking at how many MOLs you're going to need, what kind of supplies they might need as far as table space. And then there's also the communications with the marshalate about the expectations, as far as the scenario, who's reporting to the MOL table, and things like that. During the event or the practice, of course, the field and table communications, who's running back and forth, how are the bouts or the pairings going to be sent out and returned to the MOL table, who's reporting back to the MOL, how to handle fighters who drop out of your tournament or your event, and then after the event, share any necessary information regarding the authorizations, renewals, number of fighters with the marshals if needed, whether there were any incidents or armor failures, injuries, personality conflicts. All of those have to go into final reports. Now, for practices specifically, some of this is a little bit more serious as it would be at an event. For practices, it's a little more laid back. You're learning new tourney formats, you're trying different new things, but these are still some of the guidelines that marshals and MOL should be following to try new things, to give a better experience for our marshalate community. Specifically at practices, you want to work with your local MOLs and your local marshals. Okay, so whoever that might be. And if you don't have a local MOL or a local marshal, then we need to start looking at people who could possibly fill those positions within your shire or barony or local group. Practices, you may want to start running a tourney just once a month. If you have practices every week or 2 times a month, pick one of those to try a new tournament format. Advertise it in advance so that out-of-area fighters or even your local fighters can put it on their calendar so that they can come and participate and try something new. Now, at practices, like I said, this is a low-stress practice for MOLs to try different tournaments, for marshals to possibly try different scenarios, and to work out any of the kinks or the bugs that might come up while they're at practice rather than at an event. Once you get all the bugs worked out, then put in an event. Now, as far as practices goes, or if you're running an event, there are several different types of tournaments that you can use. You can make a variation of. These are just some of them. So in future videos, I'm going to be going over all of these in some way, shape, or form. Single eliminations and double eliminations are, of course, some of the more popular ones in various regards. Bedford Points is one that I've used for many years and offers a lot of fighting opportunity for the community on that day. There's also Swiss 5 tourneys, round robins, pot arms, warlord tourneys, which work great for larger events, animal hunts, which requires a lot of planning, and then ransom tourneys. There's also dice tourneys as well. But these are just some of the variations or some of the tourney formats that you can use either at practices or at events. And if you're curious about any of those, let me know, and we'll try and work something out. Again, my name is Lisette Lebergere. I'm located in the Shire of King's Crossing, south of Barony March and Debatable Lands, and just north of Shire of Misty Highlands. If you have any questions or you have a specific problem you want to try and work out, feel free to send me an email. I have 2. One is a Gmail account and one is through the Ethelmark Google group. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.